the purpose of what you're doing is advancing the gospel and advancing the kingdom of heaven through whatever realm God has called you to, that is what we live for.
Welcome to the Everyday Faith Podcast, where we believe you can live out your faith every day by starting with belief, embracing your mission, committing to obedience, and pursuing community. I'm Jess.
And I'm Dan. Thanks for joining us today on part 2 of our conversation with Ben Peterson. He is an author, a public speaker, the founder and director of Engage Your Destiny, where their mission is to equip warriors with the spiritual tools they need to face any battle. If you missed the first part of our conversation, make sure to check it out. Chasing your dream is a lie. It's a great one. Today, we're excited to dig into some of the practical ways you can run after your God-given purpose. That is the subtitle of his book, Engage Your Destiny. Ben, welcome back. Would you mind kicking things off by sharing with us what inspired you to write this book and maybe what's inspiring the next one? Let's get into it.
Well, what inspired me was when I started my ministry 9 years ago and I didn't know what to do or how to minister to people. I was like, well, I should write a book because then I'm doing something with my time. And so I just wanted to, tell people and speak to people like how to commune with God and walk with God so you can live out like heaven on earth and bringing heaven to earth and showing people how to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. So that, Isaiah 61, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me he's anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. He's sent me to open prison doors to those who are bound, set captives free. Like, there's nothing more important. And if you're not on the same page, like, people are trying to fit God into their box of success in America. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry. If it's not about his kingdom, it's not going to last forever. It's about you, and it's going to burn up, and it's going to be worthless. So how many things do we pursue in this life that are worthless? They will have zero worth for eternity upon eternity. And that's where I was just like, dude, I want to inspire people to truly commune with God because he's got stuff for you to do. And there's so many people that are hurting and that are broken and need what God has placed inside of you.
Yeah.
So let's go. That's why I wrote it.
That's great. Now, practical ways. I mean, is it sequential? Is it step number 1, step number 2? Or is it just kind of, here's a bunch of great practices, great things you can do. Pick one and better than nothing. Give us a little more.
My brilliance is using other people's brilliance. Okay.
Nice.
So yes, I have read a lot of books in my life and I was just like, all right, I'm going to tell great stories and then I'm going to tell really cool people's great stories and I'm going to make them work together and I'm going to make a point. Right. So like, one of my stories in the book is about Frank Serpico. And Frank was a beat cop that was in New York when the corruption was like out of control. And he got sick of it. And he's like, man, all these cops are criminals too. This is insane. And he started, waving the flag and worked with Rudy Giuliani, who Rudy Giuliani later took down the New York Mafia, which was like unbelievable what he was able to achieve as the district attorney of New York. But Frank was, ambushed one night by some cops and he was shot in the face.
Wow.
And it was a drug deal where they set him up to kill him by these police officers. And, he was shot in the face and he still has the bullet right there, like a fragment of it. And, he went through that whole thing and lived with such integrity in saying, and even after that, murder attempt on his life, he followed through on all the proceedings and was just like, I'm going to stand for integrity and for what's right. And on part of what he did contributed to bringing down the New York Mafia. And, that's a story of like a man who's not even a Christian, who lived with such integrity and what that looks like. And, as I talked about in episode 1, like when they wanted, I had the opportunity to join the special forces and it was like, dude, I lost the opportunity because I was colorblind, and my recruiter came to me and said, "Hey, I can get you the answers to the colorblind test." And I was like, "Man, I can't do that.
Can't do it.
I can't start my military career on a lie." You know, and it's just one of those things where, especially like when you run a nonprofit that, you know, is navigating and stewarding millions of dollars, you know, like, man, you have to have integrity in how you spend that money and how you go about things. And
Sure.
I've always just had that like integrity of like, if someone gives me cash or like, you know, these little things where like you can get away with it or, you know, whatever. It's like, dude, but God sees, you know, God sees. And I care more about his opinion of me and the favor he has in my life than being able to get, you know, whatever.
Wow. Right.
So that's just one example in the book of like finding just an incredible story that is, and I just love story. We're all written and designed for story. Finding just a great story and going, okay, like how can this story line up with a practical principle of how the kingdom can come to earth in your life and in mine, or here's how it's been lived out and some of my successes and failures. And I gave a copy of my book to you know, a new potential donor who's coming out to our event out in San Diego. And he texted me, he's like, "I'm on chapter 8 of your book, and dude, you're a mess." And you know, he's an older guy, so he's probably not used to like, you know, my level of transparency. And I'm like, "No, I'm honest," you know?
Well,
Yeah, here we are. This is what I'm working through in order to like fiercely not give up on all that God has for me and recognizing the shortcomings of how I'm not living up to everything that he's called me to and what I'm doing about it, you know?
right. I think a lot of people find themselves in that place of tension because they feel like they're not living up to God's expectations of them or something, right?
Right.
But they just sit there and feel defeated and depressed and hopeless, and they never move. They never do anything different to get out of that place, in part because what stays in the dark grows, right?
Oh man, it is something I really get into. Of somebody is depressed because of an idea that they don't live up to, and you're like, what is the idea? Who's holding you to it? Where did it come from? Is it in the Bible? I'm like, so you're being depressed off an idea that you don't know where it came from, who it's for, or who is watching you. Like,
Wow.
what is this? So it's been amazing to me just to break down when I think of something irrational or something, you know, Jess is mad at me for some reason. Well, why is Jess mad at me? Well, because she thinks I'm whatever it is, right? It's like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would she be mad about that? She's mad at me because I said something rude to her, right? That's more like it. So it's always funny where like, what do you actually believe? And that's why we start with belief. Because what do you actually believe in? And do you even know what God says? Like, here's a question that convicted me years ago of like, what is the most important thing to God? And I was like, I could like, you know, come up with something, but I don't know if I like actually know.
Do I know it? Do I really know it?
I was like, I mean, I don't actually know it, but I'll say something that I've heard on a podcast or from a preacher, right? And it's like the most important thing to God is that he has a loving relationship with you. And it's like, man, like how many lies does that truth kill?
Yeah.
Wow.
Abiding.
Right.
Right?
I was at Bible study or our small group last night. We were in worship, and I felt the Lord say to me, "I'm setting you free from the prodigal spirit."
Wow.
And my life has been so much like I'm going to run after God with all I have, and then I'm running away, and it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm setting you free from the prodigal spirit, and from this day forth, you are going to continually abide with me, as a son does with his father. And I was like, whew,
Whoa.
you know, and it was just, you know, it's nothing that we don't know, you know, that God's called us to abide with continually.
Sure.
But yeah, it's almost like there's so much power and awareness in being able to see what's actually happening and what you're doing or what spirit is attacking you, to being able, you can't shoot what you can't see. And that's a big thing that we minister on, you know, in Engage Your Destiny, is getting people to actually understand what's going, what is happening in their body, you know?
Yeah. I love that there's an author and speaker who does training on identity. And those are two questions. Well, that's one of the questions he asks is what lie am I believing? Or that he encourages you to ask, what lie am I believing? And God, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know?
Yeah.
Man, I just
How can I replace that lie?
encourage anyone listening this week, take some time to ask those two questions, right? Lord, what lie am I believing? And God, what do you want me to know? And then just like sit and listen. I don't know about for you guys, but for me, sitting and listening is really hard. I'm like, or I could do this or that.
Yeah.
But man, to sit and listen, ask those two questions. I mean, some serious healing could happen.
Amen.
Yeah.
God, what are you doing right now? That's my question. Let's do it now. Lord, what do you want us to know? Man, what I'm hearing is, what are you running after? Like, what is it that you're running after? Like, dang, I think it's this.
Yeah, this has been a really great season. About 38 days ago, I was in Coronado with my right hand guy, who's a former Special Forces officer who's done multiple tours, and we're with his brother, who's an explosive ordnance like bomb diffuser guy, and is super high ranking, and his brother was leading a Bible study on spiritual warfare. And I left there and I was like, I need to sharpen my sword. It was within the last probably 2 weeks that I started really experiencing some change and some breakthrough. And number one, I'm never going back on social media again. Dead to me. Like I'm convinced that it is Satan's portal into your brain. Number one. And number two, the things like Eve was tempted by food.
Whoa.
And how food pulls at us. And there's an element of like some of the challenges that our culture is dealing with today are things that I don't believe the disciples had to deal with at the same level. Caffeine, like the intensity of caffeine, coffee, energy drinks, sugar-free, like sweeteners, the way that sugar is manufactured today, and the way that desserts are crafted, candy, like all of these things, right? Our phones, the dopamine, the direct hit of information, of the dinging of the phone, creating dopamine. And like this is what we have access to at all times. And all of these things, right? They dull us from hearing the voice of God, from being sensitive to his spirit and truly walking with him. And so instead of filling my life with a lot of stuff, in this last season, dude, I've just been renewing my mind in the word and every day reading so much more of the word and memorizing scripture. And there is something so powerful. Like, I'm pretty sure Jesus, when he was tempted by the devil after the 40 days in the desert, he didn't have a pocket Bible with him. He was quoting scripture line by line to the enemy as he was being tempted. He knew the word through and through. And, as we work with young soldiers in our ministry and like we're talking to them and they're talking about how horrible their life is and everything going on, like one of our first questions is like, are you reading the Bible every day? And it's always no. And it's like, okay, well, Jesus said, man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the Father. You have to be in the word, studying it, memorizing it, renewing your mind with it every single day. And so obviously I'm not perfect. I haven't been perfect over these last 40 days, but I have seen so much growth. And again, I'm seeing the breakthrough because I'm doing it with somebody. Community, getting a vision for what God's calling you to, and then who are you going to do it with?
Yeah.
Want to accomplish something. Okay, great. I have a vision. I have a purpose. God's given me something. Okay, who are you going to do it with? And how are you going to do it together? And going back to podcast 1 about like how chasing your dreams is just a lie. It's just gonna leave you depressed and unsatisfied, because we need to run after with people. And if we don't do things with people, we're not going to be able to achieve them, and they're not going to last.
Yeah. There's 3 things that jumped out at me. One was motivation. The second was getting in the word. And the third was community. So it's no wonder the enemy fights us so much for our time. When it comes to reading the word, well, why do people not do it? Well, either they find it boring, or they're too busy. They can't find the time, right? So no wonder the enemy fights us there and getting into the word and eating up all our time.
The average American today spends 6 hours a day scrolling.
Wow.
6 hours. That equates to a decade of your life. That is 10 years sitting and being entertained by algorithms that are addicting you. 10 years.
How do you really feel about
Absurd.
this, Ben?
I mean, it's disgusting.
That's something that you and I have talked about for years. And so I have a app that'll limit how much time I've spent on any app on my phone. And it's funny because I've actually connected a bunch of people to this app, and everyone says like, I don't spend that much time on my phone. And I was like, great, show me your screen time then. And it is embarrassing. I mean, even sometimes for me, it's embarrassing of like, how did I spend that much time on there? And don't listen to music with the face open, by the way. But anyways,
That'll be right.
no, it's something that I think, when you get to heaven, it's like, how do you spend your time is a question. And then obviously mentally, how did you spend your time too? Yeah. What were you thinking about? What was going through your head?
So the other 2 things, community, right? Of course, no wonder we all are, feeling so lonely and being pulled apart when we're duped into thinking we're more connected than ever, which in some ways, I guess we are. You could call up anyone and get a hold of anyone if
they
needed,
answer,
and there was a good purpose, but we're using it for all the wrong reasons. All the ability to connect, okay, whatever, community. And then the third one was motivation. Again, like we've talked about how our motivations are so self-oriented. And again, emptiness. Emptiness is the outcome. Again, no wonder the enemy, that's another one of his tactics, is to make us pursue our desires and nothing that is of the Lord, right?
Wow. Well, this is, how to feel empty and alone. So Ben, how do we work from overflow?
I mean, I go back to, how are you starting your day? I don't think it needs to be a religious thing, but there needs to be quality time each day, getting fed from the Lord and hearing from him. It may not be the first thing that I do, but it's one of the first things that I do is I read a couple scriptures, I start praying, and then like I'll get some things done, make a decaf cup of coffee. I'm a decaf guy. And, then it's like time to be with God.
Yeah.
And really get my heart connected to him and to know him and to really commune with him and to push past shame, push past, emotions, feelings. Feelings are so fickle, and to getting past, what you feel like doing and how you can really just get close to God. And then I think when you have such clarity of mind and clarity of purpose, I think everyone listening to this, why do you do what you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean everything. Why do you look at Instagram? Why do you listen to music? Why do you go to work? Why do you do your job? Like, why? What is all of this for?
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a greater purpose. And in my probably like limited, simple brain, either you're directly advancing the kingdom through a ministry position, which is your full-time life and calling, or you are making money to fund that taking place, or you are raising children and discipling them in the things of the Lord. Like, I don't know what else you're doing. and then if you are making money in order to fund the things of the Lord, how are you being salt and light in the world, in the place God's called you to, through integrity and light, and being the person who's not drinking alcohol, being the person who is connecting with people and not swearing and being different. And how are you like being a light in a dark place where people say he is different? Like that's it. Like what else are you doing with your life? What else is there to do? You know, making enough money to have an above ground pool or something. You know what I mean? Like what other, there's no other purpose, because everything else is going to be burned up for all of eternity. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I think we all need to come back to that, because otherwise we're just seeking happiness. And that is a really sad thing. Like, and if your joy isn't coming from your like all out life shattering, altering relationship with Jesus to find your joy in him, it's never going to satisfy. And so it's like out of that place of calling and knowing that you are being salt and light, and that the purpose of what you're doing is advancing the gospel and advancing the kingdom of heaven through whatever realm God has called you to. That is what we live for. And so then we wake up and we seek the face of the Father to know him and have a relationship with him and walk with him continually, abiding with him throughout the day, checking in with him, praying, casting cares on him, communing with him, and then doing what he tells us to do and stepping out in faith every day till you die.
You said so much, even with those things, the last couple minutes of what you shared, that I think that alone, if people started with that, man, they'll be growing in their ability to live out their faith every day.
I just want to do what God's called me to do, embrace the mission that I have. And that's all that matters, is like, are you doing what God has called you to do?
Yep.
So Ben, thank you for being one of those who is doing what God has called you to do, who is answering the call, who is running after it. It is not easy. There are mountains to climb, valleys to crawl through. But man, I just love and appreciate you and your obedience when it comes to, I hate this, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Oh, yeah.
It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this conversation from the Everyday Faith Podcast. Our goal is to inspire everyday faith conversations. Please join us by rating and reviewing wherever you're listening, and most importantly, by sharing with a friend. For more resources like this, visit our website, askaboutmyfaith.com. God bless you as you live out your faith in your everyday rhythms of life.